The crystalline dome of Stannard Interstellar Academy gleamed against the obsidian backdrop of space, its transparent walls refracting the distant light of Pluto, orbiting Charon. The Academy stood as humanity's pinnacle of interplanetary education, a beacon for the galaxy's brightest minds. Inside its grand lecture hall, 32 students from 17 different planets sat in expectant silence as Professor Alden Fromm adjusted his holoscreen. Today, Professor Fromm began, his voice echoing through the chamber. We welcome a new addition to Class 1A, Survival and Tactics for Dangerous Planets. He gestured toward the entrance where a tall figure lingered in the shadows. Alex Moreno of Earth, specifically Eden 9. The class stirred. Whispers rippled through the room like wind through tall grass. A Deathworlder. Eden 9? Isn't that the liquid metal hellscape? How is he even alive? Alex Moreno stepped forward, his movements deliberate and measured. At 17, he stood taller than most in the room, with broad shoulders that suggested years of physical exertion. His sun-darkened skin bore the telltale speckled scarring of acid exposure, and a thin, white line traced his right cheekbone. His dark eyes surveyed the room with quiet intensity. Welcome, Mr. Moreno, Professor Fromm said, gesturing to an empty seat. Please join us. Alex nodded silently and moved toward the vacant spot, painfully aware of the stares following him. The academy uniform, a sleek gray jumpsuit with blue trim, seemed too pristine against his weathered appearance. He sat between a blue-skinned student with golden, multi-faceted eyes and a human girl with keen, observant eyes. Earth's toughest student, they say, the blue-skinned alien murmured, loud enough for others to hear. Though I wonder if being exiled from a dying world really counts as an achievement. Several students snickered. Alex merely smiled, a small, tight gesture that revealed nothing of his thoughts. Professor Fromm cleared his throat. Today's subject is planetary biosphere adaptation, specifically focusing on extremophile environments. The holoscreen flickered to life, displaying rotating images of planets with inhospitable environments, methane oceans, sulfuric acid rain, and crystalline forests that shattered into deadly shards at the slightest temperature change. Survival on such worlds requires more than technology, Fromm continued. It demands understanding, adaptation, and resourcefulness. From the corner of his eye, Alex noticed the blue-skinned student watching him with thinly veiled contempt. The nameplate on his desk read, Rinthal Voss, Corley. The Corley were renowned for their tactical prowess and ancestral claim to some of the most advanced military academies in the galaxy. I'm Marisol Jung, whispered the human girl beside him. Don't mind Rinthal. He treats everyone new like that. Alex nodded in acknowledgement, but remained silent. His attention was drawn to another student across the aisle, pale-skinned with an iridescent sheen and piercing green eyes. The nameplate read, Dane Polaris, Venus. Dane caught Alex's gaze and offered an almost imperceptible nod. The lecture continued for another hour, with Professor Fromm detailing survival protocols for various hostile environments. Alex noticed how most of the information seemed theoretical, sanitized versions of brutal realities he'd lived through firsthand. As the class ended, Professor Fromm made a final announcement that sent a ripple of excitement through the room. Next week begins the qualifying rounds for the Survival Challenge on NX-7, he said, his voice suddenly energized. 72 hours on a desert planet with minimal supplies. The team with the highest survival metrics will receive full scholarships for the remainder of your education. Alex straightened in his seat. A scholarship would mean everything. No more scraping by. No more exhausting side jobs. It would be his chance to prove his worth not just to the academy, but to himself. Teams will be assigned tomorrow, Fromm continued. But team leaders may volunteer now. Before Fromm had finished speaking, Alex's hand shot up. A beat of surprised silence followed. "Mr. Moreno," Fromm said, raising an eyebrow. "Quite eager for your first day," Rinthal scoffed loudly. "The Deathworlder thinks he can lead? Based on what? Surviving by blind luck?" Several students laughed, but Alex remained still, his eyes fixed on the professor. "I've spent my life on Eden 9, Alex said quietly, his voice carrying an unexpected weight. "NX7 will be a vacation by comparison." Professor Fromm considered this, then nodded. "Very well. Alex Moreno will lead Team 3. As students filed out, Marisol caught up with Alex in the corridor. "That was bold," she said, admiration evident in her voice. "I'd like to be on your team, if possible." "I don't think you get to choose," Alex replied, his voice softer than she expected. "True, but I can request it." She tilted her head. "What was it like? Eden 9? A shadow passed over Alex's face. "It was home." Before Marisol could respond, Rinthal appeared, flanked by 2 other students. "Listen, Deathworlder," he said, his golden eyes narrowing. "This isn't some survival game. The scholarship is for those who deserve it, those with real tactical training, not gutter instincts." Alex met his gaze steadily. "I look forward to seeing that training in action," he said evenly. Rinthal's blue skin darkened with anger, but before he could retort, Dane Polaris stepped between them, his movements fluid and precise. "Save it for NX7, Dane said, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable authority. "Petty feuds waste energy." Rinthal glared at Dane but backed away, muttering something in his native tongue that sounded distinctly uncomplimentary. "You've made an enemy," Dane observed as Rinthal disappeared down the corridor. Alex shrugged. "Wouldn't be the first time." "Well, I'm impressed," Marisol interjected. "Not many people stand up to a Corley on their first day." Alex glanced between his 2 new acquaintances. "I didn't come here to make friends or enemies. I came to learn and earn my place." "Fair enough," Dane replied. "But on NX7 you'll need allies, not just skills." With that, Dane nodded politely and walked away, leaving Alex to wonder if he'd just found his first ally or simply another competitor. The next morning, the team assignments were posted. Alex scanned the list and found his name at the top of Team 3, followed by 7 others, Marisol Jung, Dane Polaris, and to his surprise, Rinthal Voss, along with 4 students he hadn't met yet. "Interesting grouping," Marisol said, appearing beside him. "Looks like you got your wish, and your challenge." Alex's eyes lingered on Rinthal's name. "This will be educational." "For whom?" came Rinthal's voice from behind them. He stood with arms crossed, his golden eyes gleaming with challenge. "I hope you're prepared to follow when your leadership inevitably fails." "I don't expect blind following," Alex replied calmly. "Just cooperation." Rinthal laughed, a sound like crystal shards falling. "A Deathworlder talking about cooperation. That's rich. Your kind survives by clawing over others." "You don't know my kind," Alex said, his voice dropping dangerously low. Marisol stepped between them. "We have prep work to do. The challenge starts in 5 days." Over the next few days, Alex organized training sessions for his team. They gathered in one of the Academy's simulation rooms, where he outlined survival basics for NX7. "The desert there isn't like Earth deserts," he explained, projecting images onto the wall. "The sand contains metallic compounds that become charged during storms. Touch them with bare skin, and you'll have chemical burns within seconds." He displayed a holographic model of a rock formation. These oval-shaped boulders are actually silicon deposits. They often have water trapped beneath them. If you find one, you can extract water using a plasma straw. Marisol took diligent notes, while Dane observed with calculating eyes. The other team members, Alara from Titan, twins Javi and Lena from Mars, and Soren from Europa, listened with varying degrees of interest. Rinthal, however, made no effort to hide his skepticism. "And how exactly do you know all this?" he challenged. "Academy database?" Alex met his gaze. "Experience. Eden 9 has similar formations in its western hemisphere." "Eden 9 has liquid metal oceans and acid storms," Rinthal countered. "Not exactly a desert." "It has multiple biomes," Alex replied evenly. "I've crossed most of them." As the training session continued, Rinthal kept sending messages to the group chat, subtle undermining comments that distracted Marisol and the others. Alex noticed Dane quietly blocking these messages, his fingers moving swiftly over his datapad. By the 5th day, tension within the team was palpable. The morning of their departure, they gathered at the Academy's launch bay, where 8 small descent crafts awaited. "Remember," Professor Fromm addressed the assembled teams, "this is not just a test of survival. It's a test of leadership, teamwork, and adaptability. The team that returns with the highest combined health metrics and completed objectives will win the scholarship." As Team 3 boarded their craft, Alex took the pilot seat. "Strap in," he instructed. "Descent through NX-7's atmosphere can be rough." "You've piloted before?" Marisol asked. A ghost of a smile crossed Alex's face. "Let's just say I've had to leave planets in a hurry before." The descent was indeed turbulent. Electrical dust storms in NX-7's upper atmosphere buffeted the craft, sending it lurching wildly. Several team members looked pale, but Alex's hands remained steady on the controls. "Everyone check your vacuum seals," he called over his shoulder. "And make sure your air filters are functioning at capacity. The first breath of NX air without filtration will scar your lungs." They landed on a vast plain of reddish-orange sand that stretched to the horizon in all directions. Heat shimmered off the surface, distorting their view. The twin suns of the NX system blazed overhead, casting double shadows. "First objective," Alex said, consulting his datapad. "We need to establish a base camp 8 kilometers east and collect mineral samples along the way. Let's move before midday heat peaks." They set out across the plain, each carrying survival packs with minimal supplies. Alex led them toward what appeared to be a shimmer on the horizon. "What's that?" Alara asked, pointing. "Acid field," Alex replied. "The sand there is supercharged. Touch it, and it'll burn through your suit unless neutralized." "How do we cross it?" Javi asked, concern evident in his voice. Alex removed a small canister from his pack. "Chemical neutralizer. Creates a temporary path. Standard issue for Deathworld exploration," Rinthal snorted. "Or we could just go around." "That would add 3 hours to our journey," Dane observed, checking his map. "Time we don't have if we want to reach the shelter before nightfall." "I didn't realize we appointed 2 leaders," Rinthal muttered, but he fell silent when Dane fixed him with a cool stare. They crossed the acid field carefully, following Alex's lead. On the other side, they discovered an enormous oval-shaped boulder, exactly as Alex had described. "Now we test the theory," he said, removing a thin metal tube from his pack. He inserted it at the base of the rock and activated it. A soft hum filled the air, and moments later, water began to flow from the tube. "Unbelievable," Marisol whispered. They filled their containers and continued eastward. By late afternoon, they had reached a rocky outcropping that provided some shelter from the increasingly harsh winds. "We'll camp here tonight," Alex decided. Temperature drops fast after sunset, down to -20 Celsius. Layer your clothing now before the cold hits. As they set up camp, Rinthal deliberately positioned himself away from the group, setting up his own small shelter. Most of the team followed Alex's advice about layering, but Rinthal, still defiant, wore only his standard suit. Nightfall brought the predicted temperature plunge. The winds rose to a howling gale, carrying particles that pinged against their shelter like tiny bullets. In the darkness, Marisol edged closer to Alex. "How did you learn all this?" she asked. "The Academy teaches theory, but you've lived it." Alex stared into the portable heater's glow. "On Eden 9, you learn or you die. Simple as that." "But you weren't born there, were you? Earth records show Eden 9 was only colonized 30 years ago, and it was abandoned after 15. Alex's jaw tightened. "My parents were scientists, part of the original terraforming team. They didn't make it out when the evacuation order came." "I'm sorry," Marisol said softly. "Don't be. They made their choice to stay, and they taught me everything they knew before." He trailed off, his eyes distant. A sudden cry from outside interrupted them. Rinthal stumbled into their shelter, his blue skin pale and one arm clutched to his chest. "What happened?" Alex demanded, immediately on his feet. "Rock collapse," Rinthal gasped. "My shelter." Alex examined Rinthal's arm. A jagged cut ran from wrist to elbow, already beginning to swell. "The rocks here are silicon-based but contain trace amounts of metallic compounds," Alex explained, retrieving a medical kit. "They cause an immediate inflammatory response in most species." He cleaned the wound with practiced efficiency, applied a neutralizing agent, and wrapped it in a specialized bandage. "How did you know what to do?" Rinthal asked, his usual hostility momentarily forgotten. "Similar composition to Eden 9's northern ridges," Alex replied, securing the bandage. First aid was a daily necessity there. For a moment, something like respect flickered in Rinthal's golden eyes, but it vanished quickly, replaced by his usual disdain. "Lucky guess," he muttered, retreating to a corner of the shelter. The next morning brought new challenges. As they continued their journey, they encountered a field of what appeared to be crystalline growths protruding from the sand. "Mineral armor," Alex warned. "They contain pockets of gaseous acid. One wrong step, and your skin will desiccate in seconds." As if to illustrate his point, Marisol accidentally brushed against one of the crystals with her boot. The crystal cracked, releasing a hissing cloud of vapor that immediately began to eat through the material. Alex reacted instantly, spraying a diluting agent on the affected area. "Chemical reaction," he explained. "Neutralizes the acid by changing its pH level." "Thank you," Marisol said, visibly shaken. That was too close. They navigated the field carefully, collecting samples as required by their objectives. Progress was slow, and tension within the group grew as the day wore on. By mid-afternoon, their sensors detected something concerning: buried metal objects with faint energy signatures. "Old war mines," Dane said, examining his scanner. "Left over from the planetary conflict a century ago." "Can we go around?" Soren asked nervously. "Not if we want to reach the next checkpoint on time," Alex replied. He studied the scanner. "They're triggered by specific resonance frequencies. If we can jam the signal." "I can do that," Dane offered, producing a small device from his pack. "Frequency disruptor. Standard issue for Venusian explorers. Working together." Alex and Dane managed to disable the mines, creating a safe path forward. As they worked, however, Rinthal took the opportunity to sow discord among the other team members, whispering about Alex's leadership and suggesting alternative routes. That evening, as they made camp in a shallow cave, the conflict finally erupted into the open. "I'm curious, Deathworlder," Rinthal said, his voice carrying in the confined space. "Are you a lucky survivor, or do you actually understand the depths of what a Deathworld truly is?" Alex continued checking their supplies without looking up. "What's your point?" Rinthal. "My point is that survival isn't leadership. Anyone can get lucky once, twice. even a dozen times. But true leadership comes from understanding, from strategy. Alex finally looked up, his dark eyes reflecting the camplight. And you think I lack strategy? I think you're performing, Rinthal replied with a sneer. Putting on a show to win that scholarship. Something in Alex snapped. I didn't just survive Eden 9, he said, his voice low and intense. I lost everything to it. My family died in an Axian storm while trying to save others. I'm not here to tell stories. I'm here to teach you how not to die like they did. The cave fell silent. Even Rinthal seemed taken aback by the raw emotion in Alex's voice. I didn't, Rinthal began, but Alex cut him off. Save it. We have a mission to complete. Personal feelings are irrelevant. The team settled into an uneasy silence. Marisol and Dane exchanged worried glances, while Rinthal retreated to the far side of the cave, his golden eyes fixed on Alex with an unreadable expression. The third day dawned with a new threat. On the horizon loomed a vast depression in the landscape, a valley filled with swirling gray dust. Cinder Vale. Dane identified it, consulting his map. High temperature, toxic gas emissions. Alex studied the readings on his scanner. The gas levels rise at night. If we don't cross before 0300 hours, the concentration will be lethal. That gives us less than 4 hours, Marisol calculated. Then we move now, Alex decided. They descended into the valley, the temperature rising with each step. Soon they were trudging through fine ash that clung to their boots and clouded the air. Breathing became laborious, even through their filters. Halfway across, Alara's scanner beeped an alert. Something's moving out there, she warned. Multiple signatures, approaching fast. Before Alex could respond, Rinthal suddenly veered away from the group. I'm taking a shortcut, he called back. This route is too exposed. Rinthal, wait, Alex shouted. That area isn't mapped. But the Corley had already disappeared into a narrow ravine, taking Javi with him. Moments later, a terrified scream echoed through the valley. Alex's blood ran cold. He recognized that sound. Flame bovines, he told the others. Stay here. What are you doing? Marisol grabbed his arm. Going after them. That's suicide, Dane warned. Alex shook free. Keep moving toward the extraction point. I'll catch up. Without waiting for a response, he sprinted toward the ravine, his heart pounding. As he rounded a bend, he saw them. Massive creatures resembling earth cattle, but with glowing red hides that radiated intense heat. They had Rinthal and Javi cornered against a cliff face. One of the creatures pawed the ground, its body temperature rising visibly. Where its hooves touched the earth, the sand turned to glass. Alex assessed the situation rapidly. Direct confrontation was impossible. The creatures could reach temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius when threatened. But perhaps... He removed several chemical vials from his pack and mixed them quickly, creating a pungent compound. Then, taking a deep breath, he ran toward the herd, circling wide to draw their attention. Hey! He shouted, waving his arms. Over here! The largest bovine turned, its eyes like molten metal. It bellowed, a sound that made the ground vibrate, and charged. Alex dove aside at the last moment, dropping the chemical mixture in the creature's path. The vial shattered, releasing a cloud that temporarily confused the animal's sense of smell. Taking advantage of the distraction, Alex sprinted toward Rinthal and Javi. Move, he ordered. Well, they're confused. But Rinthal remained frozen, his golden eyes wide with terror. Javi pulled at him desperately, but the Corley seemed paralyzed. Alex reached them, just as another bovine noticed their movement. The creature lowered its head and charged. In that moment, time seemed to slow for Alex. He saw not the charging beast, but another memory. His mother pushing him into a shelter as an Axian storm engulfed their research station. her face determined even as the acid rain began to fall. He heard her last words. "Live, Alex. Live for something worth dying for." The rage and pain he'd carried for years crystallized into clarity. He pushed Rinthal and Javi behind him and faced the oncoming creature. At the last possible moment, he hurled his last chemical vial directly at the bovine's face. The mixture exploded into a dense smokescreen, momentarily blinding the creature. It veered off course, bellowing in confusion. "Run!" Alex shouted, grabbing Rinthal's uninjured arm and dragging him forward. The three of them sprinted back toward the main path, the herd's angry bellows echoing behind them. They rejoined the rest of the team, who had disobeyed Alex's order and waited nearby. Together, they fled across the valley floor, not stopping until they reached the relative safety of a rocky outcropping on the far side. As they collapsed, gasping for breath, Rinthal stared at Alex with new eyes. "You came back for me," he said, disbelief evident in his voice. "After everything I said, why?" Alex met his gaze steadily. "Because that's what leaders do." The moment was interrupted by Dane's urgent voice. "Incoming transmission from the Academy. They've been monitoring our vital signs. A medical team is being dispatched to our location." Sure enough, within the hour, an Academy shuttle appeared on the horizon. It landed nearby, and a team of medical personnel emerged, led by Professor Fromm and Dr. Nanika Joel, the Academy's chief xenobiologist. As they treated Rinthal's injuries and checked the rest of the team, Dr. Joel approached Alex. "Impressive work, Mr. Moreno," she said, reviewing the data on her pad. "Your team's survival metrics are exceptional given the circumstances." "We had some challenges," Alex admitted. "So I see." Her eyes were knowing. "But you've demonstrated something beyond mere survival, haven't you? You've shown what it means to lead, to put others before yourself." Later, as they prepared to return to the Academy, Rinthal sought out Alex. "I was wrong about you," the Corley said, his usual arrogance notably absent. "Deathworlds don't just teach self-preservation. They teach trust, too." "Trust?" "The willingness to rely on others when necessary." Rinthal extended his hand, a human gesture he must have learned specifically for this moment. "I request formal apology acceptance, according to Earth custom." Despite everything, Alex found himself smiling as he shook Rinthal's hand. Apology accepted. The return to Stannard Academy was marked by a reception far different from Alex's arrival. As Team 3 disembarked in the main hangar, they were greeted by applause from students and faculty alike. Professor Fromm waited on the platform, his usually stern face bearing the ghost of a smile. "Team 3, he announced. "You've placed third overall in the challenge, a remarkable achievement considering the obstacles you faced." Alex felt a momentary pang of disappointment. Third place wouldn't secure the scholarship he desperately needed. But Fromm wasn't finished. "However, the faculty has decided to award a special commendation for exceptional leadership under duress." He turned to Alex. "Mr. Moreno, you've been granted the survival scholarship for the remainder of your academic career." Stunned, Alex could only nod his thanks as applause erupted around him. Marisol hugged him impulsively, while Dane offered a rare, genuine smile. That evening, Alex stood alone on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. Beyond them, somewhere, was Eden 9, the world that had taken everything from him and yet given him the skills to forge a new path. "Quite a view, isn't it?" came Marisol's voice behind him. Alex turned to find not just Marisol, but Dane and, surprisingly, Rinthal as well. "We've been talking," Marisol continued, "about what you said regarding Eden 9. There are other Deathworlds out there," Dane added. "Planets deemed too dangerous for habitation." But with the right knowledge, the right approach. Rinthal's golden eyes gleamed with newfound purpose. Alex looked at them, understanding dawning. You want to form a study group? More than that, Marisol replied. A proper Deathworld Studies Club, with you as the founder. The Academy has never had anything like it, Dane explained. But there's interest, especially after what happened on NX-7. Alex considered this. It would mean sharing everything I know about survival techniques, environmental adaptation. And we'd contribute our own specialized knowledge, Rinthal added. My tactical training, Dane's technical expertise, Marisol's analytical skills. For the first time since arriving at the Academy, Alex felt something shift within him, a purpose beyond mere survival, beyond even earning his place. Here was a chance to transform his hard-won knowledge into something that could help others. I have a better idea, he said slowly. What if we focused not just on surviving Deathworlds, but on reclaiming them? The others looked at him with varying degrees of surprise. My parents were terraformers, Alex continued, warming to the idea. They believed Eden 9 could be saved. What if we started a research project, developing technologies to rehabilitate damaged ecosystems? Ambitious, Dane observed, but his eyes showed interest. Worthy, Rinthal declared, surprising them all. A true challenge for true warriors. The beginning of something important, Marisol added softly. As they discussed possibilities, Alex gazed back out at the stars. Somewhere in that vast expanse, Eden 9 continued its toxic orbit, a world of acid and metal that had forged him through loss and pain. But perhaps, he thought, it had also given him a gift, the vision to see beyond mere survival to something greater, rebirth. Earth's toughest student, Rinthal mused, echoing Alex's Academy nickname. Perhaps soon they'll call you Earth's greatest terraformer instead. Alex smiled, a real smile this time, not the guarded gesture he'd worn upon arrival. I'd settle for good leader. Too late, Marisol teased. You've already earned that one. Together, the four of them stood watching the stars, their shadows merging on the deck behind them, no longer divided by origin or experience, but united by a common purpose. And for Alex Moreno, survivor of Eden 9, it felt like the first step toward a home he hadn't known he was seeking. In the days that followed, the Deathworld Studies Club became official, with a growing membership that spanned all years and specialties. Alex led field training exercises, teaching survival techniques that no textbook covered. Dane developed equipment modifications specifically for hostile environments. Marisol created a comprehensive database of Deathworld phenomena, and Rinthal, to everyone's surprise, became the club's most enthusiastic recruiter, arguing passionately that understanding Deathworlds was the ultimate test of any species' adaptability. During one evening session, as Alex demonstrated how to neutralize various environmental toxins, he caught Professor Fromm watching from the doorway. You've found your calling, Mr. Moreno, the professor observed when the class had ended. Teaching survival? Teaching hope, Fromm corrected. The belief that no world is beyond redemption. It's a powerful lesson, perhaps the most important one this academy could offer. 6 months later, Alex stood before the academy board, presenting a formal proposal. The Eden Initiative, Reclamation Strategies for Deathworld Environments. Beside him stood his team, no longer just classmates, but true companions forged through shared purpose. As he concluded his presentation, he displayed a final image on the screen, Eden 9, its toxic surface swirling with metallic storms. This is where I come from, he told the assembled faculty. A world that was deemed lost. But what if nothing is truly lost until we abandon hope for it? Eden 9 taught me how to survive. Now I want to teach it how to live again. The board approved his project unanimously. That night, Alex returned to the observation deck alone. He gazed out at the distant stars, thinking of the long journey ahead. Reclaiming Eden 9 would take years, perhaps decades. There would be failures, setbacks, maybe even disasters. But for the first time since losing his family, he felt something he'd almost forgotten: purpose. Not just surviving, he whispered to the stars. Living for something worth dying for. Behind him, the Academy continued its orbital path around Charon, a beacon of knowledge circling in the darkness. And somewhere beyond, Eden 9 waited, no longer just a memory of loss, but a promise of renewal. Earth's toughest student had found his greatest challenge, and in doing so, had transformed not just his own future, but potentially that of worlds deemed beyond salvation. In the vastness of space, it was a small beginning, but as Alex had learned on Eden 9, survival often began with the smallest acts of defiance against overwhelming odds. This time, though, he wouldn't face those odds alone.